Good morning. My name is Dimitris, and today we're going to talk about stories. We'll tell a story. Stories are everywhere. We watch them on television. At the cinema, we listen to stories. Our grandma tells us stories. We tell stories. We tell stories to our friends. We have stories on the social media, and we read stories. Most books are about stories. Now today we're going to tell a story, and we're going to write a story as well. Stories are like paintings, but painters use drawing. We use words. So all you need to write a story is a piece of paper, a pen or a pencil, and your imagination. Now let's imagine things. What does this look like? It's a hot air balloon. Very good. It's a hot air balloon. What can you do with a hot air balloon? Well done. You can travel. You can travel to many places. You can see many places from the air. Now let's use our imagination and imagine that John is in the balloon. Now let's see what happens. I want you to watch this video, and I want you to try and imagine what John is doing on the hot air balloon. John looked outside. He could see mountains covered with snow, and there were many green trees and forests. Very good. Now the problem is that you can see the story, but your reader or the people who listen to you, they can't see it. So you have to use words to describe it. Now let's imagine more about the story. What happened next? Watch the video and let's see what happened to John. Where is John? What can he see from his balloon? And what happened to the balloon? Yes, you were right. John was flying above a beach. Now what was happening there? Yes, the sun was shining, the sea was sparkling. Very good, yes. Above a beautiful beach. Now what do you think John has in mind? How does he feel? Is he happy that he's going to the beach? But what happened then? Yes, the wind blew and took the balloon away. Very good. Now, if we wanted to write down the story would look something like this one. John was on a hot air balloon. He looked around. There were white clouds in the sky. Under the balloon, he could see mountains with snow and a valley with green trees. The sun was shining and the sea was sparkling. The wind was pushing the balloon to an island. John saw a beautiful sandy beach. He was getting closer and closer when the wind blew and took the balloon away. "Where am I going?" he shouted. Now, sometimes the problem is that we want to make our story interesting and we don't know how to do that. So today we're going to learn some tricks on how to make your story interesting. Did you like the first paragraph of our story? Is it interesting? Now I want you to compare the two stories. I'm going to read the second story, and I want you to think of which story you like most and why. John went on holiday and tried some extreme sports and had a great time. How many of you liked story 1? How many of you liked story 2? Yeah, I was sure everybody liked story 1. Now let's see why it's an interesting story. So let's talk a little bit about how to create a story, how to build a story. So how can I build a story? Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. Usually in the first paragraph we have to say who, where, and when, so that we can give people a picture. Let's go back to the 2 stories. John was on a hot air balloon. He looked around. There were white clouds in the sky. Under the balloon he could see mountains with snow and valley with green trees. The sun was shining and the sea was sparkling. The wind was pushing the balloon to an island. John saw a beautiful sandy beach. He was getting closer and closer when the wind blew and took the balloon away. "Where am I going?" he shouted. Who? John. Where? On a hot air balloon, flying. When? Probably morning. We know it's a beautiful day, the sun was shining, the sea was sparkling. Let's see the second story. John went on holiday and tried some extreme sports and had a great time. Who? John. When? Probably during holidays, but we don't know. Where? We're not sure. Have we got a clear picture? No, we don't. Can we close our eyes and imagine where John is? No. And there's another big problem. In story 2, we know what happened. In the first paragraph, we don't tell people what happened. If they know what happened, they get bored. And we want our story to be very interesting. Now, we said in the first part, at the beginning, or in the first paragraph if we write the story, we need to say who, where, and when. So a listener or the reader can imagine where the story is set. In the second paragraph, we give more details. We say what happened. We give all our action. And in the last paragraph, or in the ending, we finish the story. Usually we give an unusual ending to attract the reader. Now, so far we have seen how you can build a story. Now, let's see what kind of tools you need. What you need to use to write a story. Yes, I know you remember simple past. We use simple past to talk about something that happened in the past and it was short. I opened the door, then I saw a box and I took it. When you talk about long actions, about things that were happening, then we use past continuous. I was watching a film. Did you watch a film for 1 minute? Did you start watching the film at 2 p.m. and you finished a minute later? No. I was watching a film. And usually we write sentences with past continuous when we start the story, when we want to paint the background of the story, when we want to give people an idea. Now let's use our imagination. Sometimes we don't need pictures, sometimes we use sounds. I want you to listen to some sounds now, and I want you to take notes. What can you listen? What can you hear? And remember, I want you to take notes, and I want you to imagine who, where, and when. Are you ready? Do you remember what you have to do? Yes. Listen carefully, take notes. And when I finish with the sounds, I want you to imagine who, where, and when. Is it morning or night? How do you know? Is it in the city or in the countryside? And what happened after that? What can you hear? You're right, it's a storm. Can you hear the thunder? Can you imagine the light in the sky? What does it sound like? Yes, someone knocking at the door. Yes, what did they sound like? Footsteps. All right. So far we know that it's probably night. Yes, you could hear the cricket singing, and so we know it's night. Probably it's in the countryside. It's not in the city. And who's there? Somebody knocks the door. Very good. And you will decide if it's summer or winter night. So somebody knocks the door, and we know that somebody walks there to open the door. So there are two people. Okay. Can we think of the story now? I want you to think of the story. I want you to think the first part of the story. Who's there? Who's knocking the door? Why is he knocking the door? And who's opening the door? Is it a funny story? Is it a thriller? Is there suspense in the story? Now we said in the second paragraph we write what happened. But we need to give details. We have to talk about it. We have to give the picture to the reader or the listener. So let's work together and make an interesting story. Shall we say the door opened slowly? And what happened then? Who opened the door? John saw. Did he see a tall man? Did he see an old lady? Did he see a boy or a girl? All right, let's see. John saw a tall man. Where? Behind the door. If you want to make your story more interesting, you could say how people feel. How do they feel? Do they feel excited? Do they feel scared? Are they nervous? And how do they do that? For example, the tall man, what could he be saying? Can I help you? said the man. How do you think John felt? Was he calm or was he nervous? Was he scared? So John was scared at the beginning, at first. But imagine John. He's out there, it's raining, it's pouring, and he needs to go somewhere dry. It's raining, there's a storm outside. So John was scared at first, but what did he do? He decided to ask for help. Do you think the man is going to help him? Maybe. Sometimes we want to give more suspense. How can we give suspense? We can use words like suddenly, which means ξαφνικά. We can use words like, expressions like out of the blue, which means από το πουθενά. Or you could say all of a sudden. These words help make our story more interesting, and they help us understand when something happens in the story. So John was scared at first, but he decided to ask for help. Suddenly, now what happened there suddenly? Yes, he heard another voice. Now, who was there? Who was behind the tall man? Was it an old lady? Was it a princess? Was it a man or a woman? You will decide. So today we have talked about how you can begin a story, how you can make it interesting, what kind of words and what kind of tenses you need to make your story interesting. I'm sure that if you use your imagination and the words and the tenses that we have talked about, I am sure that you can write your own fascinating stories. Now remember, the ending can be exciting or unusual. I'm sure that your English teacher at school would love to read your story. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson.